We are doing systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam. My gratitude towards Alankar Prabhu and Rai Pran Prabhu started this all and have maintained it since last couple of years. So I'll begin with some prayers and start the study for today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam. So far we have studied up to Canto 1, Chapter 17, verse 30. This chapter is entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali. So just to recap real quick for those who need a refresher. King Pariksit comes across a conversation, or he sees a bull who is really in a tormented condition, like barely balancing on one leg, and he's talking with a cow who is also looking really troubled, like usually like the cow is plain white and happy, but she is really troubled, and they are conversing. So as a king, he wants to protect his citizens, so he comes and encounters them. And there is also he sees one really ferocious king, and in last week we studied that it was just a pretense, like that wasn't really a king. So that is personification of the current age, Kali. So he's disguised as Kali Maharaj, and we all know the qualities of Kshatriya, and King Parikshit is an ideal Kshatriya. He is capable of killing like thousands of people single-handedly for protection of his citizens. So as soon as he encounters this ferocious King Kali, he gets ready to kill Kali. But as soon as Kali realizes that he is in trouble, he surrenders. So that is where we ended last week. So today we'll start with verse 31, 117:31. Rajovacha न ते गुडाकेश यशोधराणाम् बुद्धाञ्जलेर्वै भयमस्ति किञ्चित् न वर्तितव्यं भवता कथञ्चन क्षेत्रे मदीये त्वमधर्मबन्धुः Do you want to read? न ते गुडाकेश यशोधराणाम् बद्धाञ्जलेर्वै भयमस्ति किञ्चित् न वर्तितव्यं भवता कथञ्चन क्षेत्रे मदीये त्वमधर्मबन्धु राजोवाच न ते गुडाकेश यशोधराणाम् बद्धाञ्जलेर्वै भयमस्ति किञ्चित् न वर्तितव्यं भवता कथञ्चन क्षेत्रे अधीये त्वमधर्मबन्धु. Thank you. So we'll look at the synonyms, translation, and purport by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. And before I begin, I just want to give a disclaimer that I'm here not at all because of qualification. This is solely for my purification. If something good comes out of it, all credit goes to all the spiritual teachers from whom I'm learning. If I make any mistakes, it's solely because of my misunderstandings, my misgivings. So please forgive me, correct me, chastise me. I'll just share whatever little I have prepared for the 4 verses today. So the purports are short, so I think we can read all the synonyms and purports today. So Raja Uvacha means the king said, Na te, not your. Gudakesha is a name of Arjuna. Yasha Dharanam, of us who inherited the fame. Baddha Anjale means one with folded hands. Anjale. Vai certainly. Bhayam fear. Asti there is. Kinchit even a slight. Na neither. Vartitavyam can be allowed to live. Bhavata by you. Kathanchana by all means. Kshetre in the land. Madiye in my kingdom. Tvam you. Adharma Bandhu, the friend of irreligion. So King Pariksit is saying here in translation, the king thus said, we have inherited the fame of Arjuna. Therefore, since you have surrendered yourself with folded hands, you need not fear for your life. But you cannot remain in my kingdom, for you are the friend of irreligion. So we discussed last week how as incredible a Kshatriya as King Parikshit, Maharaj Parikshit is, he is also very kind to the poor. So if someone surrenders, we learned the importance of surrender last week, then Lord will definitely protect. And king is a representative of the Lord in the kingdom. So Maharaj Parikshit assured Kali in these words that since you have surrendered, I will not kill you, but he has to take some action as a king to protect his citizens. So does one of you want to read the purport?
The friend of all kinds of irreligiosities may be excused if he surrenders. but in all circumstances he cannot be allowed to live as a citizen in any part of a welfare state. The Pandavas were entrusted representatives of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, who practically brought into being the battle of Kurukshetra, but not for any personal interest. He wanted an ideal king like Maharaj Yudhishthir and his descendants like Maharaj Pariksit to rule the world, and therefore a responsible king like Maharaj Pariksit could not allow the friend of irreligiosity to flourish in his kingdom at the cost of the good fame of the Pandavas. That is the way of wiping out corruption in the state and not otherwise. The friends of irreligiosity should be banished from the state, and that will save the state from corruption. Thank you, Prabhupada.
So here Srila Prabhupada is
stressing how Pandavas were interested representatives of uh, the Lord Himself. Uh, and King Pariksit is the last successor in the reign of Pandavas. And he's also called Rajarshi, who is a king as well as a sage. He has qualities of a sage. He is very righteous as well as compassionate and ideal protector of those who seek his refuge. And a couple of weeks ago, Sukadevananda Prabhu described him as a sagacious king, which means he analyzes all the situations and takes calculated risks. So in 16th chapter, the sages themselves asked Suta Goswami when he was narrating, like, why didn't King Parikshit kill Kali? They asked Suta Goswami in text 1.16.5, please tell us. But also, as devotees of the Lord, they only want to hear about the Lord. So they say that please narrate us this story if it relates to Lord. Like, please describe if these situations relate to the topics of the Lord. So in the next verse 1.16.6, it is said that Athavasya padam bhoja makaranda liham satam kimanyai rasadala paira yusho yada sadvayah. Like, it means devotees of the Lord are used to licking up the honey available from lotus feet of the Lord. What is the use of topics which simply waste one's valuable life? So this question was brought about. Some of us may be wondering, like, why didn't he just kill Kali? Like, why he had to forgive? And as the title suggests, like, yeah, there is some punishment, but there is also some reward to uh, Kali, as we will unfold in the later verses. And also, this is all will of the Lord. And as a representative of the Lord, as a king, um, Parikshit Maharaj has to align with Lord's will. And so what really happens is, like, so currently we are living in the 28th Kali Yoga of this cycle. And Kali Purush can never be killed. He just escapes to the next Kali Yoga of the next cycle. So that is what is described in the Shastras. Any discussion? Anybody wants to say? I mean, Kali, where did Kali suddenly come from? One may wonder, right? Like in Parikshit Maharaj's kingdom. So it is described that he escaped from the last Kali Yoga. Like, even like after this Kali Yuga, which is many, many years still left, Kali personified Kali will never be killed, is what is described. Like, he'll escape to the next Kali Yuga of the next Mahayoga cycle. So there are 4 yugas, right? Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. So after this Kali Yuga, the Kali Purush will go into the next Kali Yuga. And that's how the cycles perpetuate so far. Possibly, yeah. Sounds like, yeah. Mhm. I don't remember top of my head, but it's all like complicated math. Like time is cyclical, right? So Kali Yuga lasts for 432,000 years. Dwapara is twice of that. Treta is 3 times of 432,000, and Satya Yuga is 4 times. And together, all four of them form a Chatur Yuga. It is also known as a Mahayuga. So that comes to 4.32 million times. So you asked how many cycles. So there are 71 cycles that are described. So this number, like 4.32 million times 71, that portion of time is called one manvantara. And there are 14 manvantaras. So times 14, that becomes one kalpa, and that is equal to 1 day of Brahma. Yeah. So maybe not as long as the life of Brahma, but 1/4, because Kali is only part of one of the 4 cycles, right? Because 1 day of Brahma includes all 4 yugas. And no, he doesn't die. So yeah, he escapes to the next Kali Yuga. So yeah, I don't know the other technicalities as to what happens in between. If somebody knows, please enlighten me. Yeah. So we are currently in the 51st year of Brahma. It's called Shweta Varaha Kalpa. And 6 Manvantaras are gone, 7th is going on. And in that, we are in the 28th Kali Yuga. 5,120 years have passed.
So Lord Krishna, so he comes for 3 main reasons, right? Paritrana, sadhana, vinasya, dharma, and starpana. So, and when he establishes religion, he also takes time to establish the leaders of the society. So sometimes, we might get into that, no, all this leadership or management or even going in politics is like, what? This devotee went in politics? Fallen, right? Or not even fallen, maybe not serious. So, why take interest in politics and all that? But here, Prabhupada says that Krishna wanted an ideal king like Yudhishthir Maharaj to rule the world. So, of course, we are not here to rule the world for, if somebody has interest in that, it's not for their benefit, but it's with the interest of the society, and to bring the godliness back in the society. So there are so many devotees who have so much of interest, but they just feel ashamed that oh, if I talk about politics in front of devotees, but even though their interest may be different, but the name politics have such a bad negative image in our society. So even devotees sometimes say that, what, you are in politics? But at any position, in any phase of life, in any way, shape, or form, one's only interest is to bring Krishna consciousness in the society. So if it is in politics, please go right ahead. If it is in sports, go right ahead. If it is in food, go right ahead. As long as you are bringing people in Krishna consciousness. And that reminds me of this one message that devotees shared on our WhatsApp group, that one devotee in London, or like in Vrindavan also, they saw that they wanted to see Prabhupada's to-do list. So devotees have like to-do list. Okay, I have to do this laundry, then we have to make sure that we read, and then we have to do the groceries. We have our to-do list like this. At least most of the people, they got hold of Prabhupada's to-do list. You know what was Prabhupada's to-do list? Only one to-do list: make society God conscious. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, I just thought of that from this statement that Prabhupada is saying that Krishna wanted leaders like Yudhishthir Maharaj to go right ahead and do the duty.
Every position or qualification has a place. Like if Varnashram Dharma is followed, then they are supposed to take advice of the Brahmanas, and everyone collectively, their duty is to be in alignment with Krishna's will. So make everyone God conscious. So leadership and being the Kshatriya does have a place, but I think it has just degraded in today's world. That is why it has a negative connotation because they don't follow the order.
Solution to all the problems we are facing in this world, right? So, for example, like in Bhagavad Gita, many places Prabhupada has mentioned, like we are thinking that we are progressing or advancing, and but we are not. Like the each advancement we are thinking, we are actually going very low, right? Like people used to eat in gold plates. From that, we came to the steel. From steel, we now came to the plastic, which is actually a form of cancer, right? So, so as in this purport, the problem we are facing is corruption, and Prabhupada has given so simple solution that even like not the irreligious person, Prabhupada is saying the friends of irreligiosity also should be banished from the state. So that's the importance of like God consciousness, because people are getting irreligious by themselves. They are choosing the irreligious people to rule them. So you know, like Prabhupada has given so many solutions to these problems, and I feel like people should read Prabhupada books. At least we have.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. In a couple of verses before, Prabhupada has said, like in today's world, it's like people choose the leader.
And it's just all degraded. And while trying to create solutions, we are creating more problems in the material world. All right, so if it's okay, we can move on to the next verse, text 32. त्वां वर्तमानं नरदेव देहेषु अनुप्रवृत्तोऽयम् अधर्मपूग लोभो नृतं चौर्यमनार्यम् अम्हो ज्येष्ठा च माया कलहश्च दम्भ. Should we read it 3 times? One of you. Okay, we'll go ahead. Tvam means you. Vartamanam, while present. Naradeva, a man, god, or a king. Deheshu, in the body. Anupravruttaha, taking place everywhere. Ayam, all these. Adharma, irreligious principles. Pugaha, in the masses. Lobha, greed. Anrutam, falsity. Chauryam, robbery. Anaryam, incivility. Amha, treachery. Jeshtha, misfortune. Cha, and. Maya, cheating. Kalaha, quarrel. Cha, and. Dambha, vanity. So what this verse means is, if the personality of Kali, irreligion, is allowed to act as man-god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound. One of you wants to read the passage?
Principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, as we have already discussed, may be followed by the follower of any faith. There is no need to turn from Hindu to Muhammadan to Christian or some other faith, and thus become a renegade and not follow the principles or religion of religion. The Bhagavatam religion urges following the principles of religion. The principles of religion are not the dogmas or regulative principles of a certain faith. Such regulative principles may be different in terms of the time and place concerned. One has to see whether the aims of religion have been achieved. Sticking to the dogmas and formulas without attaining the real principle is not good. A secular state may be im- impartial to any particular type of faith, but the state cannot be indifferent to the principles of religion, as above mentioned. But in the age of Kali, the executive heads of state will be indifferent to such religious principles, and therefore, under the under their patronage, the opponents of religious principles such as greed, falsehood, cheating, and pilfery naturally will naturally follow, and so there will be no meaning to propaganda trying to stop corruption in the state.
Thank you. So,
Here, Prabhupada is stressing on the principles of religion, which in English or in Sanskrit they are uh, yajna, dana, tapas, and shaucha. So, austerity is so these are the four principles that are like the laws of nature. They are universal. They apply to each and every living being. And what really attracted me to ISKCON like 5 or 6 years ago when I started visiting in Houston when I was living there was I could see like how it really is non-sectarian as it is described everywhere. Like people from all over the world were chanting the Mahamantra and following the principles. So here also Prabhupada is saying that one does not need to convert from one faith or religion to practice these universal principles. And then he goes on to say that, but in current age, because irreligion has persisted, um, even like these universal religious principles are not being able to be practiced. Uh, so, like dharma, literally, like the Sanskrit word dharma comes from the root dhru, which means something that upholds. Dharayate iti dharma. So it is not bound to a particular faith or practices or traditions, customs or rituals. And there are so many of such faiths currently in the vast world. But just like laws of nature, they apply to everyone. And what I really love about our Sanatan Dharma is how liberal it is. Like, I have never heard of any stories where someone is trying to convert someone else. There is no really practice of conversion that is taught. Um, but here, Maharaj Pariksit is saying that if King Kali, who was pretending to be a king, if Kali would have been allowed to stay and be the king, um, then because Kali is friend of irreligion, adharma bandhu, all the irreligious principles will persist. And it is already described like in the four yogas, with every passing yoga, 1/4 of religiosity is diminished. So compared to the golden age or Satya Yuga, 3/4 of these principles have gone, and how the representative personified religion bull is only standing on one principle currently. Um, but also continuing on the topic of why Parikshit Maharaj didn't kill Kali, I said he took calculated risks because he could see that there is one good rewarding quality about Kali, and it is described in Bhagavatam 12.3.51 and 52. 51 says, Kaler dosha nidhe rajan nastihi eka mahan gunaha kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. So what that means is, although this age is full of faults, there is one good quality. Just by glorifying the Lord and by not just saying but living in accordance with the Lord's principles, um, one can get liberated or reach the highest goal. So King Parikshit could see that good quality, and every yoga has a prescribed yajna or sacrifice. So in the next verse, 12.3.52 says that कृते यध्यायते विष्णुं त्रेतायां यजतो मखैः द्वापरे परिचर्यायां कलौ तद् कलौ तद् हरिकीर्तनम्. So, in the Satya Yuga, meditation on the super soul Paramatma was recommended because it was feasible for the life conditions in that age. In the next age, which was Treta Yuga, religious principles decreased by 1/4, and so fire sacrifice was recommended instead. In Dwapara Yuga, temple worship in deity forms was recommended. But in current age, Sankirtan Yajna, or sacrifice in the form of Kirtan, as we all started the class with, and book distributions and Kirtan should be the goal. Like, so it has become like, although this age is so filled with religiosity and all the, like, it is an ocean of faults. One good thing is the process has become so easy for us if only we take it up, which is the challenge. So anybody has something to say? Yeah.
Right, the Bhagavatam religion urges following the principles of religion, but they are not the regulative principles of certain faiths. So, can you please throw some light on the difference between the principles of religion and the regulative principles? What is the difference between following the principle of religion and the principle of religion?
Yeah, like certain faiths, what I have observed is they don't put stress on regulative principles that we stress on here.
I think that's what it is referring to. But this sentence that says such regulative principles may be different. Sorry, the principles of religion are not the dogmas or regulative principles of a certain faith. So these are the four that were described in the first sentence: austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Those four are the principles of religion, to broadly categorize. Yeah.
Yeah, all four are tied to the regular.
Yeah. Yeah.
So truthfulness is taught again, and then mercy is gone by, penance is gone by, illicit sex, and austerity is gone by.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's like human values. That's what it's currently described in our secular country.
Yeah, and even speaking of like ourselves on stage,
Mm-hmm.
that's for getting our picture.
Yeah.
In different ways, they have the same.
Yeah. Tomorrow we'll hear from Malti Prabhu about reflections of Christ because it's Easter Sunday. So maybe she can shed some light on. She'll be here. Move on to the next. Yeah. Verse 33. Navartitavyam tadadharmabandho धर्मेण सत्येन च वर्तितव्ये ब्रह्मावर्ते यत्र यजन्ति यज्ञैर् यज्ञेश्वरं यज्ञवितान् विज्ञः. So na means not, vartitavyam deserve to remain, tat therefore, adharma irreligiosity, bandho friend, dharmena with religion, satyena with truth, cha also, Vartitavye, being situated in Brahmavarte, place where sacrifice is performed, Yatra, where Yajanti, duly performed, Yajnaihi, by sacrifices or devotional services, Yajna Ishwaram, unto the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, Yajna, sacrifice, Vitana, spreading, Vidnyaha, experts. So here King Pariksit goes on to say that therefore, O friend of irreligion, you do not deserve to remain in a place where experts perform sacrifices according to truth and religious principles for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's explaining to Kali why he cannot live in his kingdom. His kingdom is described as Brahmavarta, where sacrifices are performed, and the goal of all the sacrifices is satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So, does somebody want to read the purport?
Of Godhead is the beneficiary of all kinds of sacrificial ceremonies. Such sacrificial ceremonies are prescribed differently in the scriptures for different age. In the other words, sacrifice means to accept the supremacy of the Lord and thereby perform acts by which the Lord may be satisfied in all respect. The atheists do not believe in the existence of God and they do not perform any sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord. Any place or country where the supremacy of the Lord is accepted and thus sacrifice is performed is called Brahmavrata. There are different countries in the different part of the world and each and every country may have different types of sacrifice to please the Supreme Lord. But the central point in pleasing Him is ascertained in Bhagavatam and it is truthfulness. The basic principle of religion is truthfulness and the ultimate goal of all religion is to satisfy the Lord. In the age of Kali, the greatest common formula of sacrifice is Sankirtan Yajna. That is the opinion of the expert who know how to propagate the process of yajna. Lord Chaitanya preached this method of yajna and it is understood from this verse that the sacrificial method of Sankirtan Yajna may be performed anywhere and everywhere in order to deliver any the personality of Kali and save human society from falling prey to the influence of the age.
Jai.
Thank you.
So here Prabhupada starts by saying that Yadneshwara is nothing, who is no one but Lord Himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. And Krishna has described it in Bhagavad Gita also. There are several verses that tell firstly the importance of yajna and the goal of yajna. So in verse 5.29 it says that Krishna says that Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram surudam sarva bhutanam nyatva mam shantim richati, which means a person in full consciousness of Krishna, knowing Him to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well wisher of all living being entities, attains peace from all pangs of material miseries. And then in ninth chapter, Krishna says that uh, 923 ye api anya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvitah tepi mameva kaunteya yajanti avidhi purvakam. So Krishna says that those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only him. He's telling Arjuna, O Kaunteya, but they do so in a wrong way, avidhi purvakam. It's like going indirectly. Um, and also, I've heard stories about how, like, the most common analogy I've heard is uh, Krishna is like a loving parent. If a kid wants chocolate, parents know that like it's not good for the kid, so they won't give. But if the same kid takes some money and goes to a shopkeeper, the shopkeeper is not going to say that this is not good for you, so I won't give you. So that's how it is described that the demigods will probably fulfill one's material desires, but Krishna knows what is really good for someone in the whole big picture, like knowing the past, present, and future. So that person will only get what they need versus what they want. Um, there are so many other verses in Bhagavad Gita where sacrifices and what happens like with demigods is all described. Like in chapter 3, 11, and 12, it is said that the demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus, by cooperation, men and demigods cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign by all. In charge of all necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by yajna, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to demigods in return is a thief. So, here the importance of doing yajna or offering and sacrifice is stressed. And then about demigod worship, like in chapter 7, from verses 20 to 23, Krishna says that those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. There are three modes of material nature, right? So, based on that, they follow. And Krishna says that he is in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, he makes their faith steady so that the person can devote himself to that deity. And endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Like, although demigods are fulfilling the material desire, they have to be sanctioned by the Supreme Lord. They are bestowed by Krishna alone. And men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited because why it's described as small intelligence is because these material desires, their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of demigods, but Krishna says his devotees ultimately reach his supreme planet. This was in 7th chapter. And then in 15th chapter, Krishna says that this is a popular verse, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matta smritir jnana apohanam cha vedeshcha sarvam ahameva vedyo vedanta krut veda videva chaham. So again, the ultimate goal is Krishna himself, like the goal of entire uh, Vedic scriptures is also to attain the Supreme Lord. But like this is we are talking about in Satya, sorry, at the end of Dwapar Yuga and beginning of Kali Yuga, right? So in Maharaj Parikshit's kingdom, it's called Brahmavarta because his citizens, firstly King Parikshit uh, was an ideal Kshatriya and also a sage. So he was living in accordance with how a king should rule, and all the citizens were performing sacrifices. So he did not want any principle of irreligion to influence those citizens. Anything else for this verse?
One more for today. I think we are doing okay on time, right? 10 more minutes.
Yeah. We have started shortening our classes by 45 minutes.
Yeah, more time for discussion so everybody. Because
Yeah.
this is supposed to be more of an interactive session. So,
But yeah, in this verse, I had a thought on just Srila Prabhupada's vision, and his mood and his broad-mindedness. So, generally when we say that, okay, we have to perform a sacrifice, it has to be done this way, this way, these are the rules, these are the regulations. But Prabhupada is saying that no, different countries may be doing sacrifices in their own way, different ways. So, which is all, Prabhupada says, accepted. Yeah, and all of that sacrifice is called Brahmavarta. And the idea is you can do whatever, however, but the idea should be the central point is pleasing him. That is the conclusion, that is the assertion in Bhagavatam, and that is also the truthfulness. So again, sometimes people get so in funnel vision that no, this is the only way, this is the only process, this is how you do it because that's how we did it and that's how it is done here, and you do this in this place. But Prabhupada is saying no. Different countries have different ways of performing sacrifices, different traditions, and that also brings variety. Brings so much joy, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody is doing kirtan, for example, it's not that everybody should do the kirtan in the way that Babaji's did in India, or okay, if somebody doing kirtan with guitar, for example, because that is the culture of this country, so amazing. Ultimately, the kirtan is done for the pleasure of the Lord. No, it could be done with anything. So it would be so nice to adopt this broad-mindedness from Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And
Like he always says, Desha Kala Patra, time, place, circumstances.
Circumstances.
That can be modified.
Yeah, so many issues are there which are just based on this, right? That because that's how it is done in India, so now everybody has to do it. Like giving class by
by
woman.
It's
So
not everywhere, so we're fortunate here.
exactly. So yeah, it's even so. Prabhupada wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. This was way in early 60s, 62, 1962 in Radha Damodar temple. So at that time he had this vision. He had never even been outside of the country, and he had never even seen any place. But he is still he knows that different places may have different ways, but the goal should not be forgotten. It's like principles versus the details.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just appreciated Prabhupada's words here.
Yeah, move on to the next one. Text 34. Yasmin Harir Bhagavan Ijjamana Ijjatmamurtir Yajatam Sham Tanoti Kaman Amoghan Sthirajangamanam Antarbahirvayur Ivaisha Atma. So Yasmin means in such sacrificial ceremonies, Hari, the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Ijjamana, being worshipped, Ijjatma, the soul of all worshipable deities, Murti, in the forms, Yajatam, those who worship, Sham, welfare, Tanoti, spreads, Kaman, desires, Amoghan, inviolable, Sthirajangamanam, of all the moving and non-moving, Antaha, within, Bahi, outside, Vayu, air, Eva, like, Esha, of all of them, Atma, spirit. So this is the last verse that the king Pariksit says in this context. He says that in all sacrificial ceremonies, although sometimes a demigod is worshipped, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is worshipped because he is the supersoul of everyone and exists both inside and outside like the air. Thus it is he only who awards all welfare to the worshipper. So continuing on, like we described in the last verses, like although there are sacrificial ceremonies towards so many different demigods like Indra, Chandra, um Ganesh, Durga, like it all comes under Karma Kanda, but ultimately the Supreme Lord Hari is only the benefactor of these sacrifices and the bestower of the rewards of those sacrifices. Or Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Vishnu Tattva. And you must have heard so many times, especially in ISKCON classes, that the most effective way to feed something is to feed the whole rather than feeding the parts, right? Like watering roots nourishes all the parts of the plant, leaves, stem, flowers. That's the most common analogy. And also the Bhakti Marga is described as taking an elevator, like rather than doing all the so many rituals and sacrifices, like we discussed earlier, for the current day and age, uh, Sankirtan Yajna is described. So it's like taking elevator to the goal. In one of the classes on this verse by Pandavasakhi Mataji, uh, I heard that in the Skanda Puran, Krishna says to Satyabhama that after living 100 lives following Varnashram Dharma, one is a one becomes suitable to worship Lord Ganesh. After worshipping Lord Ganesh for 100 lives, then one worships or goddess Durga. 100 lives worshipping Lord Durga brings one to the level of worshipping Surya. 100 times Surya, then Shiva. Then 100 lives of worshipping Lord Shiva brings one to the level of Lord Vishnu. So can you imagine, like, so everyone here in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, after so many lives, like this is where we reach. But like taking the elevator, uh, we are also fortunate to just be at that level, which is attained after many lifetimes and difficulties. Um, yeah, I didn't have much to add because again, it is only talking about sacrifices, demigod worship, and the ultimate worshipper. But yeah, we still need to read the purport. So, does somebody want to read?
It is even sometimes seen that demigods like Indra and Chandra are worshipped and offered sacrificial awards. Yet the rewards of all such sacrifices are awarded to the worshipper by the Supreme Lord, and it is the Lord only who can offer all welfare to the worshipper. The demigods, although worshipped, cannot do anything without the sanction of the Lord because the Lord is the super soul of everyone, both moving and non moving. In Bhagavad Gita 9:23, the Lord Himself confirms this in the following sloka. Yepi anya devta bhakta yajante shraddhayan vitaha tepi mam eva kvanteya yajanti avidhi purvakam. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. The fact is that the Supreme Lord is one without a second. There is no God other than the Lord Himself. Thus, the Supreme Lord is eternally transcendental to the material creation. But there are many who worship the demigods like the sun, the moon, and Indra, who are only material representatives of the Supreme Lord. These demigods are indirect, qualitative representations of the Supreme Lord. A learned scholar or devotee, however, knows who is who. Therefore, he directly worships the Supreme Lord and is not diverted by the material qualitative representations. Those who are not so learned worship such qualitative material representations, but their worship is unceremonious because it is irregular.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very Purvakam, like we described earlier in the Gita verse. Like it's not as per the
For this age. Uh, and also, the ultimate Sarva Karana Karanam is Lord Krishna. Uh, in Gajendra's prayer, I saw this beautiful verse where he sings in this regard is Namo Namaste Akhila Karanaya Nishkaranaya Adbhuta Karanaya Sarvagamamnaya Maharnavaya Namo Pavargaya Parayanaya. In a class by Gauranga Darshan Prabhu on this chapter, he alluded to how, like, ultimately Krishna is the cause of all causes, and in this verse, like how Gajendra, Lord's devotee, is saying that you are the cause of all causes, but you yourself are not the effect of any cause. You are the wonderful cause because The ordinary causes undergo changes when they become the effects, but you produce the world without undergoing any change. You are the scriptures and you are the ocean into which all scriptures flow. You are the bliss of salvation and the refuge of great souls. I bow down unto you. Mhm. And one interesting perspective I heard in his class was also that in this conversation, I think, and yeah, I don't want to steal the thunder from the next sessions, but Dharma doesn't blame Kali. Like, so just to, we'll find out, but Dharma in this story doesn't blame that Kali is the cause. Like when Maharaj Pariksit wants to hear from the Dharma that accuse the perpetrator, Dharma says that he doesn't know the cause of his suffering. Um, and there are like two things to take from this. One is that maybe there is some influence of Kali, where there is confusion and illusion, which is why maybe Dharma is confused about what's really causing the suffering. But really, more than that, it's because Dharma, as Dharma should be, is following religion, and he does not tell on others to get punished for the crime committed by others, because that is also considered a sin to accuse someone or to point faults at someone. So it is a characteristic of a Vaishnava also. It was done? Okay, yeah, maybe I missed. Okay, Maharaj Parikshit already asked Dharma and then comes here.
Yeah, they were asking Maharaj Pariksit first consult Mother Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and then was asked Dharma, the bull that okay, they would be, and then Dharma became full like, dramatic or very that heading situation with
Yeah.
that who knows, nobody is the doer, everything is done by Krishna, like that. That is a very nice word.
Okay.
Um, but then, yeah, that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, in fact, the truth thing for say that you know the truth of religion.
Mhm.
According to the principle that 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 is
Mhm.
intended for the perpetrator of the crime. So he is speaking in the like the idea of karma. Correct.
Yeah, that's how he deciphers.
So I was also very surprised at how karma is it's a bit straightforward.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you had asked like truthfulness, like
Yeah.
why. Yeah, yeah.
He used to say, oh, and then King Pariksit also he saw Dharma is being attacked by this king. He saw he witnessed. So, but still he is going through back and forth that okay, now I want to hear your side, I want to hear your side. But
Yeah.
then,
As a sagacious king, he wants to take into perspective everything that's happening. And then Kali says to Maharaj Parikshit that he's here by the will of God. So, like we were saying earlier, that he cannot go like Maharaj Parikshit has to be in alignment with Krishna's will. So he won't like just kill Kali. Kali also allows the karmic cycle for all of, at least speaking for me, like all of us fallen people, uh, which is why Kali Yuga is here with that one rewarding quality. So in the next sessions, we'll find out what really happened. So far we know that Maharaj Pariksit finds out what's going on between Dharma and Dharini, or bull and cow, Mother Earth, and he gets ready to kill Kali, but Kali surrenders. And today we learned that how Maharaj Pariksit doesn't want Kali to live in his kingdom, so he asks Kali to leave. In the next session, we'll find out. So what happens to Kali?
I found the
Yeah.
verses where Brahma is trying to
Okay.
Brahma is trying to Maharaj Pariksit. So he's saying that it is very difficult to ascertain a particular book cause, where cause out. And then there's some philosophers who deny all sorts of duality. They said you are one is personally responsible for that. That is very some say that superhuman powers are responsible. Some say that uh, the nature is responsible. So who knows who this is?
Yeah. The ultimate cause we really don't know, even in today's age, if something is happening. And on those lines, there was one verse that was quoted by Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, is from 10.14.8. It's also a popular verse. Tattenukampam susamikshamano bhunjan evatma kritam vipakam ऋद्वाग्वपुर्भिर् विदधन्नमस्ते जीवेतयो muktipade sa dayabhag, which means, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with their hearts, word, body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So, in accordance with Dharma, those who understand that they are suffering the reactions of their own past misdeeds, they are eligible for liberation. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल।